Hey friends, welcome to Kitty Witty Papercraft. My name is Amy, and this is the first in a series of videos I'm going to be doing showing how I make my own planners and writing journals. So this video, I'm going to be turning this book into a planner, and then I will have another video in another week or two taking this book and turning it into a creative idea journal. So it's just going to be a place where I can track all my ideas and plans. And then I'm also going to take this binder and use it for note taking. So I don't know if I'll do a separate video for this one. This binder really is going to be simple. I'm probably not going to do a lot of like junk journalifying it like I'm going to with these two books. This one, I just need a place to take notes on books that I'm reading. So I do a lot of reading in the personal development and spiritual development space. And I also like to do some freeform journaling after meditating. So I really just need a place to take notes. So I may do a little bit like decorating on the inside covers of this just to make it look a little prettier, but probably not enough to do a whole video on that. But I will be doing a video to show how I turn this into an idea journal. And like I said, in this video, I'm going to be putting this one together as a planner. So you might be wondering why I don't use a little golden book junk journal or one of my Kitty Dory sewing pattern envelope journals for these needs. And the short answer is just I need more room to write for some things. So it's really just a personal preference, like what you're comfortable writing in. And I think that's so important. You know, you hear the term like looking for planner piece, and, you know, people keep buying different planners every year and never really feeling quite satisfied. And part of that is just finding the functionality that works for you and finding, you know, the planners that have the kind of things that you want to track and all of that. So that is part of it. But part of it is just, you know, does it feel good to work in that particular planner or journal? And I think a lot of it, at least for me anyway, has to do with the size of it. And that sounds kind of silly, but I think when, you know, you're doing a lot of writing or creating, you got to have the right space that suits you. So I know when I'm writing, I feel cramped if the space is just too small. So, you know, just as an example, I created this binder a couple of years ago when I first started my Etsy shop, and it's just a chipboard binder that I covered with scrapbook paper. And you know, I was going to use this as my business planner, and I made my own dividers, and I'm going to do something very similar in the planner that I'm going to do in this video. But this is like a 6x8 planner, and it's nice, but I just, when I'm writing and planning, sometimes I write like all over the page. I might have like different, you know, categories or, you know, boxes, and I don't know, I just get kind of crazy when I'm writing and just doing sort of like brain dump style things. Now for my planner, this is going to be just kind of like an everyday planner, like with a calendar and to-do list, that kind of thing. So I don't necessarily need to do a whole lot of like free-form writing, but I will be doing that in this idea book for sure. But even in my planner, like when I'm writing my to-do list, like if you see some of those planner pages, you get like a little box for your to-do list, and I just feel limited and cramped in that style. So that's just me, and that is why using, you know, like this size planner or even a little golden book, which is even smaller. This is 6x8 also, so the cover on this planner is bigger, but the inside pages are about 6x8. Little golden books are 6x8, so the pages are a tiny bit shorter than that, but about that size. And for me personally, I think this size is great for doing like scrapbook type layouts where you have like a photo and a little bit of journaling, or like this one is my Christmas journal from last year. And I did this all in like list style. So like on this page, I just have a layout and it's my favorite Christmas songs. So it doesn't require a lot of space. It was just like a list of things. So for me personally, I think this kind of journal, or like a sewing pattern journal, so this is a traveler's notebook size, which is even smaller. I think they're great for list making and maybe like keeping track of quotes, or maybe like a gratitude journal or something like that. But again, I mean, some people use the traveler's notebook style and even the narrow style, which is even smaller than this, to do their scrapbooking, you know, all their memory keeping, for their planner, for, you know, everything. And you just have to find what works for you. So, you know, and I know that like for planners, for example, you can buy bigger planners. So like Happy Planner makes an 8.5 by 11 planner. And I'm going to be using 8.5 by 11 papers in this book, even though this book is bigger than that. And I'll talk about that when I get to making this journal. But so I could use a Happy Planner. But the issue for me personally there is the pages are already designed for you, and they just have a lot of extras on them that I don't want to use. So they can be useful, but and I've done that before, where they have trackers and, you know, keep track of your goals, and you can go crazy with all kinds of different pages. And just at this particular point in my life, I just want to be really, really simple. And I just want to track the essential things that I need to track, because right now I'm just using like scrap paper to write to-do lists once a week and then every day. And it's just getting kind of messy, and it's just not very inspiring. And I'm trying to carve out some time in the morning to actually sit down and create a nice to-do list, and just to have that quiet time that's kind of an inspiring start of the day. And I may actually do a little bit of creating on those daily pages also. So, you know, kind of like the planner decorating stuff that you see out there, but kind of using just the pages that make sense to me. So I'm going to be using my own pages that I created myself, which you can do also. And you can just create your own on the computer, or you can go to Etsy and find printable pages, and you will find thousands and thousands of sellers. Well, maybe not thousands of sellers, but probably. I know there's thousands of listings for printable planner pages, and you can just go there and find something that works for you. Or if you're like me and none of those really kind of speak to you exactly, like some of them had features I liked, but had other ones that I didn't want to use. And I don't want to have anything cluttering up the page that I'm not actually going to use. So I just made my own. It did not take long at all. Maybe when I get to that part, like where I'm filling the planner with my pages, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I just use Microsoft Word, honestly, and just use tables in Microsoft Word and made my own pages. So like I said, I'll share some more about that, but you just got to find what works for you. And if it feels right, then you will be more likely to use it, I think. So that's what we're going to get into in this video. And next I'm going to talk about the supplies that you'll need if you want to try to make one yourself also. So another reason why I wanted to make my own planner is because I figured I'm already making junk journals, and this is really no different. The only difference is we're going to be adding planner pages inside of this journal. And I recommend a ring-bound journal, not a sewn, you know, journal where you make a spine and sew in the signatures, because you could use this year after year. You just have to take out your old pages from the previous year and add new ones. So it's something that you can use forever, and basically it's going to be the same as a junk journal. So it's just, like I said, going to have the planner pages in it. So if you would like to make yourself a junk planner, you can decide how, you know, decorated you want to make it or how simple you want to make it. So the very minimum, really all you need is a book cover that you want to use, so a book that you want to use, the pages that you want to put inside for your planner, and then a crocodile or similar, like a heavy duty hole punch, so you can punch through the book board, and binder rings. So you can buy these loose. I'll leave links to different supplies that I'm using in this video in the description. But these are 1-inch rings. So you can use whatever size rings you want. I think 1 inch is going to be good, at least to start with. I'm not sure how thick it'll get during the year. So this is going to be like a 1-year kind of planner, but I'm going to start with 1-inch rings, and I'm using 3 rings. So that's a personal preference too. You could use 2 rings, you know, depending on the size of the book that you use. You could use 2 rings, you could use 6 rings, you could use as many as you like. I don't like fussing with opening and closing a bunch of rings every time I want to take pages out or move things around. So I'm going to do 3 rings because I do have a pretty big book. So I figured 3 was probably the minimum that I would want to use. You also need something to cut the covers off. I like to use a utility knife. You could use a craft knife. And I wanted to mention before I forget also, the book you use can be whatever size you want. So this book is pretty big. This one is like 13 by 9. It's a little bit bigger actually than I even wanted. I wanted something to fit 8.5 by 11 paper in it. So this has got a little extra room in it. This book here, this Make It book that I'm going to use for my idea journal is about 8 by 11. So this one's perfect for 8.5 by 11 paper. I just have to trim the paper a little bit. But I didn't have a lot of books this size that I was willing to use for the journal making. So I decided to go with this one for my planner. And I'm just going to make it work. And maybe I'll figure out something that I do to take advantage of the big size. So it's a little bit bigger than ideal, and I'm okay with that because my planner just lives in, you know, my craft room. I don't take it with me, put it in my bag or anything like that. So I'm okay with it being a little bit on the bigger side. So yeah, so at a minimum, really all you need is the book that you want to use, your planner pages, and, you know, something to bind your book together, your crocodile, your rings. And if you want to finish off the holes that you make for your binding, you could use eyelets. So I'm probably going to add eyelets to my holes, I think, but that's optional. The other thing that's optional is when you cut the cover, you're going to have a cut edge. You can cover that with fabric. I'm going to cover mine with this fabric here. And you could also use washi tape if you want to, or you don't have to use anything. If you're careful and you get a clean edge, or even if you don't, it's your planner, so it doesn't really matter. So that's just an optional thing also. So that would be like the basics. So if you want to add even more to it and make it more kind of like a junk journal feel, you can add dividers. So I'm using scrapbook paper, and you can see I've already made these dividers. I actually filmed that part of the video before I did this part. So you're getting a sneak peek at the finished dividers. And they're not even completely finished. I haven't decorated them. I just added tabs to them. Oh, so that's the other thing. If you do want to do this, you can just throw your planner pages inside and you don't even need dividers. But I'm going to make a divider for each month, or I made a divider for each month. And so yeah, if you want to do that, you might want to make tabs for your months. So you can use a tab punch, you can buy already made tabs, whatever works for you, and then scrapbook paper. So since I made a divider for each month, I had 12 pieces of scrapbook paper, and I've already cut them down, obviously, because I already made the dividers. So that's something else you could add. And then besides that, you can add some fabrics. Like I'm going to use this scrappy fabric ribbon to decorate one of the dividers, and it's going to be something that sticks out from the edge of my planner because I really want it to have a junk journal feel. I want there to be a lot of texture, a lot of things sticking out of it. So it has that junk journal feel, like I said. I'll probably add some pom-pom trim. I have a stack of little scraps here that I might add, like make some little fabric tabs on the edges of some of the pages. And then I've got some scrap quilt fabric. So this fabric I'm actually going to add to the front of my, or the inside front and back covers, and I'm going to make some pockets. So my planner will have some pockets with the fabric there. And another step further, if you want to really make it feel like a junk journal, is add vintage pages in between your planner pages and your dividers and things. So I'll share a little bit more about that when we get to that part. I actually just pulled together just a couple of things just to kind of remind myself of what type of things I might want to add to this journal. Sorry, I had to step away a second and grab the other papers that I kind of pulled out already. So I'll probably use some vintage book pages and flashcards. This is a great project if you're going to use a bigger book like I am, to use some of your bigger ephemera. So I've got some long flashcards, so I will probably add these in there. Pockets, envelopes make great pockets, so sewing pattern envelopes. This is a 45 record sleeve. Those make great pockets. And then I've got some vintage papers. So I've got this handwriting pad and I have some ledger papers. So I might want to add these in here and there just so I have some other places to write. So those are just some extras that you can add, totally optional, just depending on what you want to do in your journal. So I think that covers everything that you could possibly need. And I'll make a list in the description box of all the supplies that I'm using. And I think we're ready to get started. All right, so now I'm ready to make my cover. Let me make sure I'm zoomed out okay here. So the first thing that you want to do is obviously cut the covers off your original book. So the way I like to do that is I like to use a craft knife. So you can use, or I use a utility knife. This is a utility knife that you can get like at a hardware store, but you can use a craft knife also. And I like to open the book and just have the pages turned out of the way. So the pages are on this side and just the cover is going to be face down. And what I normally do is just pull the spine back a little bit and cut here, like in that little hinge area. It's just paper, so it will cut really easily. This book, the spine is really tight, and I think it's because the end paper here it's just kind of tight. So what I'm going to actually do is cut the end paper here first, and that should kind of release the cover a little bit and the spine, so I can, cut that a little bit easier. Yeah, it definitely does that. So just kind of feel like where the edge of the book is and just get as close as you can to that. And I am just going to get in there. Just watch your fingers. Oh, I cut a little bit far there. Shoot, I went right off the angle that I was on. So, and the other thing is, and I mentioned this in my course, my online course, when you're cutting with a razor, you really do not want to be cutting towards your body. Turn the book and cut like left to right. So I'm breaking my own rule there because your knife could slip on the glass mat if you're using that and you don't want to cut yourself. So safety first, make sure you're cutting away from your body. And also you want to put something down that you can cut on. I use this glass cutting mat from We Are Memory Keepers. I really like cutting on that, but you could just have like some thick cardboard or something down to protect your table and gives you something nice to lean on. So this actually did not cut into the cover at all. The cover's all the way over here, so it's fine. Yeah. So cut the first front cover off, and then do the same thing with your back cover. Just, have the pages to the side. Actually, I'm going to cut it. Yeah, I want to do it this way. So just have your pages out of the way, so you're just having the cover face down. And this side seems like it'll cooperate a little better. I don't need to cut the inside paper first. So just cut this cover here. And I'm standing like to the side. You can't see that on the screen, but I am standing to the side there, so I have no danger of cutting myself. And you see like this little bit of plastic coming off here. It's So a lot of books, hardcover books like this, will have a clear coating on them actually, and it's really imperceptible except when they get old and it starts peeling up. So a lot of times when they start peeling, I will just peel the whole thing off. But, you know, technically it is a way to keep your cover cleaner. Like you can wipe it easier. I actually used a magic eraser to clean this up. There was a lot of dirt on this. You have to be really careful with the magic eraser because they're a little bit abrasive. They have a cleaning agent in them, but they do work really nicely. But you want to test it in an inconspicuous area to make sure it doesn't lift the color up. So if this did not have this clear coat on it, I probably would be careful with using a magic eraser because it could lift up some of the ink. It doesn't always. If you have a really light touch and you just very lightly dampen the magic eraser, you can do it and it's fine. I've done it before when a cover was really dirty and it did work really nicely, but you do want to be careful. The older the book is, the, you know, worse condition it's in, the more poor condition it's in, the more likely that the ink would come up. So you got to be really careful with that. So you could just use a baby wipe in that case if your book has a lot of dirt on it. So, and if it doesn't, I wouldn't even worry about it. So this clear coating, I'm probably just going to leave this as is right now because I'm actually going to cover a little bit of this cover with fabric. So I'll show you that in a minute. So when you do this, when you cut the covers off, let me zoom back out a little bit. After you cut the covers off, the pages will still be bound together. So you can just put that aside and use that for another project. I'll probably use some of these pages inside of this planner. So I'm just going to sit that to the side. And let's see. So the next thing I want to do is I want to clean up the edge. So you can see like where this is bending here. The book actually, it ends like right here. And this is all just paper from that hinge. So I am going to clean that up. And like I said, I'm going to, sorry, this is a little bit thick here actually. It's a lot of paper overhanging. On little golden books, you don't usually get that much paper overhanging. On the regular size one, this is actually a little golden book. It's a big little golden book. And this one has quite a bit of paper overhanging, and it's a little hard to see where it is. So I'm trying to take my time here and talk at the same time. I'm not too good at doing that. So I lost my train of thought. So what I'm going to do is, I always like to clean up the edge so it's as straight as possible. And obviously you don't want to have all that overhang. It'll just kind of get in your way. And I just flip it over and do each side till it's pretty cleaned up. So depending on your book, you may or may not want to add something to the cut edge just to kind of finish it off, make it look a little bit more finished. And you know, it's definitely not a requirement, but it just makes your book look a little neater. Your journal will look a little more polished if you do something there. So I think part of my issue here is this blade is getting dull. So clearly I need to change that soon, but I'm getting stuck there. Maybe I will edit this part out because this part can be a little bit tedious. Just get it all cleaned up. So I am going to finish cleaning this up, and I'm going to do the same thing with this cover because there's a lot of extra overhang of paper on this. So I'm going to clean up these edges, and then when I come back, I am going to cover my cut edge with fabric, and you can do that, or you can use washi tape, or again, if you get a clean edge and you're happy with that, you don't really need to put anything there. So I will be back after I get my edges cleaned up. Okay, so now I have my covers cut, and like I said, what I like to do is cover the cut edge, although that is completely optional. It really isn't necessary at all, but I just want to add a little extra something and some texture, so I like to do that with my covers. And the way I'm going to do that with this cover, even though I'm not building a spine where I might use fabric there, I'm just going to use a small strip of fabric, and I've already cut my fabric. And I'm just going to have it come over onto the cover just a little bit on the front, and then it will be a little bit over on the inside as well, probably right to about there. And then I'm going to add a little bit of trim right along the cut edges of the fabric, because I'm pretty sure it's probably not perfectly straight. And again, just to make it look a little bit more finished, I'll add some trim there along the cut edge. So again, totally optional. And after I add the fabric, I'm going to do a little strip here and a little strip on the back cover also. And then I'm going to hole punch it. And I'm going to use a crocodile because that will get through the book board and the fabric. So I'm just going to use glue, and my favorite glue is this PVA glue. It's made by Lineco, and I will link all that up down in the description box, what I like to use. So let's see, I'm just kind of thinking here. I also cut the fabric a little bit longer, so I almost always do that. I don't ever like measure something and then measure the material the exact size, because I can guarantee you, like, at least for me anyway, like my measurements are always off. And if it's off just a little bit, it could be a little bit short. So I just cut it a little bit longer, and then I will trim the excess off when I'm finished. So I'm just eyeballing this. If I was selling this, I would take a lot more time and be perfectionistic with it, but I'm just going to eyeball as far as it being straight. And I'm not going to measure and all of that. So I am just going to use my PVA glue, and I'm just going to run a bead of glue down the edge and then maybe spread it a little bit with a little paintbrush. But, you know, when you're working on a project for yourself, like, I highly encourage you not to let perfectionistic tendencies, I know so many of us have that. Don't let that stop you from making things, trying things. If it's new, you're not sure how it's going to work out. Like, if you're just making it for yourself, you know, it doesn't need to be perfect. And I mean, it's handmade, so rarely will things be perfect. You know, if you want to be perfectionist, then, you know, if you have like a business or something and you're selling things, then that could be argued that that could be the time for that to be, you know, playing a part in what you create. But when you're creating for yourself, just try to, I'm trying not to preach here, but it's just something I feel really passionate about, because I know so many people let their fears of things not being perfect or things not going well or messing up keep them from even trying in the first place. And that's really sad. So don't let that stop you. So it doesn't matter if your things aren't perfectly straight or neat. And like I tell like my students in my course, you know, there is no such thing as failure. There's only, you either get the result that you wanted or the lesson that you needed. So, you know, you will learn from every mistake. And that's not my quote. That's from a podcaster I listened to named James Wedmore. He said that, and I love that quote. And it's so true. So you just have to kind of reframe the way you look at things. And that makes all the difference in the world. All right, so I'll get off my little soapbox there. So I'm just going to glue the one side here on the front and then wrap it around to the back. And I can already tell that's going to be a little bit crooked, but I will kind of hide that with the trim that I add to that. So, you know, every mistake, I say this to my students also, that every mistake when you're making junk journals can almost always be fixed. I mean, 99% of the mistakes you make can be fixed. So really there's nothing to fear at all. So I'm just using a little bit of glue. You don't need a lot. PVA glue is great for paper. It's great for fabric. So this is pretty much the only liquid glue I use, except for sometimes I'll use glossy accents. Like if I need to glue something, you know, in a tiny little area, I will use that because it has like a little nozzle tip on it. But I love the PVA glue for my bookmaking, journal making, I should say. Okay, so I'm just kind of smoothing that down. And I lined up the top edge, and then I'll cut that bottom edge. And I need a little bit more here just to kind of get me to the edge. Don't need a ton of glue. And I find this glue is really nice because it doesn't show through the fabric. Like sometimes some glues will like seep through the fabric. And I guess also not using too much helps with that. But some glues like really soak through the fabric, and then you can see it on the finished, you know, project when it dries. And this doesn't do that. So that is that. And I'm just kind of thinking to myself here, I mean, I planned this out, but I didn't plan out every little detail. I'm just trying to think when I do the holes, if I want to add the trim first and then make the holes, but I honestly haven't decided what trim I want to use on this. I was sort of thinking I might use pom-pom trim on the front cover. I normally use ribbon here or like embroidery trim or something, and I use pom-poms on the inside pages, but I don't think I want to use them on the dividers because I have tabs on all my dividers. And when I was playing around with like just some ideas for fabrics I could use and trims, I felt like the pom-poms covered up the tabs. So I thought, I might not want to use that on the inside, but maybe I could add that on the outside. But if I do that, that is going to make doing the holes a little bit tricky. So I'm kind of thinking just out loud here, and you can join me in just kind of looking at this. I'm just trying to think if the hole punch is going to go through the trim as well as the fabric. I know it'll go through the trim fine, but it might get a little weird with the trim. So what I could have done, and I might actually still do that because that's the other nice thing about working with liquid glue versus tape, is you can actually pull it up. I didn't want to come too far over onto the cover, but I maybe should have come over a little bit more than I did. So let me just kind of see. Yeah, if I could probably do it here for my hole punch, and then it's not too close to the edge or too close to the cover. The only thing I was thinking though is when I put my dividers in, I want the tabs to sort of peek out a little bit, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Let me grab my dividers. So you are really getting a glimpse into my thinking process. This is why I don't really do process videos very much, because it's a very messy process. It's not really easy to film. You're always worried when you are making videos that you're going to bore the viewer. So, you know, but this is kind of how the process goes for me. So, as you can see, I've already made the dividers because I told you before I already filmed that part of the video, and that's going to be coming up next when you watch the video. But as far as filming, I filmed that first. So, what I'm thinking is, you know, I want the dividers to peek out a little bit like that. I think that looks really cute. So to do that, I can't have them too close to the edge of the binding like that. Yeah, they might still stick out. It's kind of sticking out past the edge there. So let's see. Oh, I can try better here. Let me line this up. And let's see, it would probably be like that. So it does still stick out a bit. So I think I will be okay with the fabric where it is, but let's see. What did I say about not being a perfectionist? I think I am going to keep the fabric where it is. If I did this again, I would probably cover a little bit more to give myself a little bit more space to make the holes for my hole punch. But we're going to just see how that turns out. All right, so let's see. That is the front cover. I'm going to let that dry before I hole punch that, and then I am going to go ahead and cover the back part with the fabric that I have cut for that. All right, so I want these to be about the same kind of roughly same amount on the front and the back showing, even though you're not going to see them together once you put the planner together. So probably about like that is good. Okay. All right, so just gonna add my glue here. Okay, so you saw me finish off the edges that I covered with fabric with the trim. So I added this daisy trim to the cut fabric edge there on the back cover, and then on the insides I have added some rickrack trim. So that's all finished off. So now I'm ready to hole punch the covers. So I'm just going to start with the front cover, and I already kind of measured where I wanted to put the holes. So I'm going to do 3 inches from the top, 3 inches from the bottom, and about 6.5 inches from the top is the center. So you just need to measure your book so you can have your rings evenly spaced. So let's see, I am going to mark this kind of right in the center of the fabric. So I'm just using a pencil just to make a little mark. So that's 3 inches from the top, and let's see, about there. 3 inches from the bottom, and then 6.5 inches from the top. I'll show you right here is my center mark. So I'm using 3 binder rings for this journal. All right, hopefully I don't regret putting these holes where I marked. They're going to be on the fabric, but hopefully not too close to the edge, so I can get my dividers right where I want them. So just starting with the center hole. And if you're not familiar with a crocodile, most of you guys probably are, but this is great for punching through bookboard. It will go through effortlessly. I don't know if other hole punches would do the same job, like a standard hole punch. I have tried with my standard hole punch and I couldn't get it through. So if you have one that's marked heavy duty, that should probably work. And the crocodile, at least this style, I know they have a couple different styles, but this one has 2 holes, a smaller one and a bigger one. So the bigger one is the one that I use most of the time. That's the 3/16. Yeah. I don't know. No, that's a different measurement. I thought it said on here what the size of the hole is, but it's the bigger of the 2 holes that are on the crocodile that I'm using. So, and this is for my 1-inch rings. So, yeah. And it goes right through. Now, when you use fabric, sometimes you have to come in with some scissors and sort of clean that up a little bit, clean up the hole. But I told you before, I think, that I'm going to add some eyelets to the holes, so that just kind of finishes them off a little bit, but you can leave it like that too, and it's okay. All right, so there's that one. And my top hole. Oh yeah, then I always have to poke the fabric and the book board out. I just use a pencil to poke it through. And let's see. Now, of course, my fabric isn't perfectly straight, so again, I would be measuring all of this if I was making this to sell, but it's just mine, so I am not too worried if these aren't perfectly lined up. Just trim that out a little bit so there's not too much fuzz when I put the eyelets in. And that's a nice thing about the crocodile is you can make your holes and also set eyelets with the same thing here. And you can use any eyelets with this. You don't have to use the We Are Memory Keepers eyelets, but I do like their eyelets. I will try to look up the exact size. I don't know off the top of my head what the size is, but you can buy other brands, obviously, to use with the crocodile, as long as you have the right size. So, for the holes that you're making. And like I said, this makes 2 size holes, so you just have to have the right hole. I think it's a 3/16, but don't quote me on that. I will find out for you and put it in the description box. Okay, I'm just kind of playing with the little loose threads there. Okay, so then using my little baby nursery containers, I have like little findings and things in these nursery containers. So I'm just putting, actually let me just do one at a time, but I'm just going to put some white eyelets in here, and then I think I will add the trim. Actually, before I do that, let me just double check something here. I think this will still work with, yeah, I will put the trim right at the edge of that. I don't want to cover up this little doggy's face too much. She looks just like my dog. It's so funny. When she pants, that's exactly what she looks like. All right. Okay, so let's see. Let me pop these 2 out because they're probably going to fall out. And wow, this is basically barely going to go through. So I might have to punch pretty hard. I didn't even think that it might not go all the way through. It's coming through, but the neck on these are not super, super long. You can buy ones with longer necks. And I like to do it like this. And there's just a certain way you have to line up the eyelet. Yeah, that went through, but like barely. And let's see. So you just put the eyelet in where you want it, right? So the finished side is on the outside of the book. And then I'm going to flip it over so it doesn't fall out. I'm kind of holding it there with my finger, but there's a certain way, and you just have to look at your Crop-A-Dile. It'll show you on there how to position the eyelet on the setter there. And there's like a little stem that sticks up. And you just kind of make sure the eyelet is centered on that stem, and then you squeeze. You squeeze it pretty good. And then the last one. Okay, so now I've got the eyelets there. And I'm going to do the same thing for the back cover, and then I'm going to add the pom-pom trim. And then when I finish that, we're going to finish off the inside covers of the journal or planner cover, and I'll show you what I'm going to do there. So I'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay friends, so I've finished trimming off the covers. So I added the eyelets to the back cover, and I added this daisy trim there, and that's dried. And then I added some pom-pom trim to the front cover. So the inside covers, let me switch them around now so I have them go in the right direction, are ready to add pockets to. So of course you don't need to add anything to the inside covers. I'm going to add pockets to mine though. If you're not using a book that has the illustrations on the inside cover, I should have mentioned this before, but you could always add scrapbook paper or something, or vintage gift wrap to the insides of your covers if you want some kind of like color or pattern there. So you would add that first before you add your fabric trims or washi trims, whatever you decide to do with your cut edges there. So I just wanted to mention that. So like I said, I'm going to add pockets. And if you want to add pockets, a couple things. So I didn't realize this before I came up with this idea. So I actually learned that I can't do the pockets exactly like I wanted because I did not foresee the issue with the eyelets. So let me show you real quick what I'm talking about. So I want to add a quilt piece to the front and the back covers for pockets. So what I was envisioning is having the pockets go, you know, from edge to edge. Well, the issue is the eyelet here. So I already punched and set my eyelets, and punched the holes and set the eyelets. And even if I had not done that, it's too thick to go through the book board and the quilt material for the eyelets I was using. You would need a really long neck eyelet to be able to go through that thickness, and those are a little bit harder to find, and I don't have any of those. So what I want to mention is you're okay with setting the eyelets first and doing the pockets, you're fine with setting your pockets first and doing your eyelets through something that's thin. So you can use paper, or you can, if you want to use fabric, use a thinner fabric like cotton sheeting or a vintage handkerchief or something like that, and then your eyelet will go through the pocket. But if you end up in a situation like this where I am not going to be able to go through the pocket because it's too thick, I am just going to set my pocket edge right like this. So it's going to come just over the rickrack, and what I'm going to do is just have the pocket cover like where the paper is. So I'm going to leave this yellow edge exposed all around, and I'm just going to attach my quilted pocket to that space, and it's just going to end right, you know, right about here. So this is still open, and I'm just going to use double-sided tape actually to adhere this. And I've got some really strong tape, and I think that's going to work just fine, and I am totally happy with it being like that. If I was making this For someone else, I would probably sew the edges of these pockets before attaching them, but I don't feel like messing with my sewing machine right now. I need to add a bobbin, and I don't want to mess with all that right now. So I'm just going to add these pieces like this, but you might want to cut your pockets and then sew around the sides and the bottom before attaching it, if that's something that matters to you. So when I come back, these pockets will be all set. Okay, friends, are you still with me? Clearly, I still have a long way to go with my editing skills. I apologize if that last section with, putting together the tabs on the dividers was a little bit longer than it needed to be. Like I said, I'm still figuring out how to edit videos, and kudos to YouTubers that have really smooth, like really polished looking videos. It's just not something that comes easy to me. That has been such a learning process. I've been fooling with editing for, less than a year, but still, I feel like I've been doing it long enough and it just doesn't come easy to me. So I'm doing the best that I can. And I know this video has gotten really long already. It's an hour long at this point. And I'm like 3 days in on this video. So it also takes a ton of time to do these kind of process videos. So probably I'm going to share how I put this together. So I've already taken the dividers and put them inside of this planner. So, and I put some pages in the planner. So I'm going to show you that in just a second. And as far as decorating, so what I want to do, in addition to what I've already done, is I'm going to add some fabric ribbon to the journal, and I want to decorate the dividers, and maybe not even just decorate the dividers, but add some vintage ephemera in here to kind of make this feel like a little more vintagey, a little more junk journal like. But that is going to be like a whole other amount of time on my end on editing, and also for you guys watching. So I think I'm going to just kind of finish this off with this ribbon and a little bit of sharing what this looks like put together. And this will, if you want to make one, this will be enough to get you to where you can make one of your own. And I might just do a flip through of it when it's really decorated and finished. So I guess I'm probably going to end up doing that in another video, unless I get some crazy idea today and decide to film that and add it to this video. It's already like, I don't know, I think it's almost 3 o'clock on Sunday, and I wanted to get this video up today. And rendering the videos takes a long time. So even after I film it and edit it, then I have to render it. And it takes like 2 to 2.5 times as long as the video to render it. So this video is already over an hour long. So I'm talking like 2.5 hours of rendering still to go today. And I want to get this up today. So I'm thinking I'm probably not going to like fully kind of decorate it and add things to it in this video, but at least you'll be able to see like how this all came together, and you'll be able to make one for yourself. So, let's see, added the dividers to my rings. So really simple. I have, one for every month in here. And my idea is to add my planner pages to each month. And I just went ahead and, because it's August, so this is set up for a year, and I'm just going to leave the dividers in it. Even like next year, I'll keep the same dividers, and I'll just add new planner pages. So this is what I have for the month of August. Even though we're halfway through, I'll still probably use this. And this is all I'm going to do. So this is completely, something that you just personalize based on your needs, like I mentioned earlier. And this is all I wanted in my planner. And I just made these pages on Microsoft Word using tables. So really simple. But as I mentioned earlier, you can buy planner inserts that you print out at home. If you look on Etsy, you'll see tons and tons of variations. Anything that you can think of that you would want in a planner, you can find on Etsy as a printable. So find something that suits your needs. And I'll just show you what I'm using. So I have a monthly calendar, and this is where I just write all of the appointments and events that we need for our whole family. And then I have a monthly menu. So I sit down at the beginning of every month and I plan out all of our meals. So, and it's actually really, really simple. It doesn't take me long at all. Maybe I'll share this later when I do like the finishing of the decorating and everything. But I do like the same kind of meal each day of the week. So like example, like Mondays, I use ground beef. So every like Monday, I just go down the month and just make a different meal with ground beef. So we have tacos one Monday, the next Monday we'll do spaghetti, the next Monday we'll do cheeseburger macaroni or, something like that. So I have a different type of meal for each day of the week and I sit down and fill that out for the month. So I don't have to think about it anymore. And then after the monthly menu, then starts a week. So I have a really, really simple page. This is all I wanted to have. So I can just write down everything that I need to do for a week for home, work, any appointments we have, and then I'll have the dinners for that week in this box. So that's all I have for that. And then after the week page are my daily pages. So again, I didn't want all the little like extras that you sometimes see on daily planner pages. All I need is my to-do list for that day for work stuff and home stuff. And then over here I have like a schedule. Let me zoom in a little bit. It's probably a little hard to see. I'm kind of zoomed out. So I just have my schedule here on the left side, and so if I have any appointments or anything that's time sensitive, I'll have that there. And then there's just a little extra space in case I need to write anything else down, but that is all I need. So that's my daily. And then I have I printed that double-sided, so for each day of the week there is a daily planner page, and then the next week starts. So I have enough pages here for the entire month of August, and then I will print out another batch of these for September. So I was going to make one batch, for every month and go ahead and put that in here, but I just didn't take the time to do that. So I may go back and do that. So the whole thing is filled with pages and then it's ready to go. And then once I get to December, I'll just start over with January 2021. So that's what this is. And like I said, just, whatever suits you. You may want to have monthly dividers, but also have sections for, let me zoom back out. You might want to have sections for other things that you like to keep in your planner, like a budget planner, trackers, and that kind of thing. So just whatever suits you. So I've got these pockets here. I've also got some of these little planner stamps. So if you are a planner girl, I'm sure you've got a whole bunch of all different kinds of little stamps and fun things that you use in your planners. So I haven't done planning in a long time like this. So I have these. I'm just going to throw those in there in case I decide to use them when I'm doing my planning. And yeah, so I want to add this floral scrappy ribbon to this. So let me just back up a second. So you can remember like earlier in the video, I really wanted my little tabs to stick out. Well, they don't really. I mean, if I look at it at a certain angle, you can see them a little bit. So next time, if there is a next time, or if I had to do this over again, I would have made my fabric come over onto the cover a little bit more so I could put my eyelets a little bit further in, away from the edge. And that would have allowed my tabs to stick out a little bit more. So not a big deal, but that is one little thing I wanted to mention. And then, on some of the tabs you saw I added these little, just little bits of jute string. So just for some like extra interest and texture there. And I didn't want to do it on all of them, so I just did it on a few. And so that's sticking out, so that's kind of fun. And I put my pom-pom trim on the cover because I didn't add that to the inside. And I'm just going to pop these out for right now because they're going to slide around as I'm working in here. But I do want to add this floral trim. So I don't want to cover up any of the tabs, so I'm actually going to add that to my December tab. So that is here at the end. And I could add it on the front or the back, but I'm going to add it to the back. So it's behind the tab, and I just want it to peek out of my planner here, like about that far. So just kind of eyeball that first, and then so it's a little bit below where the stitching is. So this is called a snippet roll. These fabric scraps that are stitched together. Sometimes they're just stitched in a straight flat line, but sometimes they're ruffled. This one's ruffled. And I got this on Etsy in a shop called, I knew I was going to forget. Oh gosh. I'll put it in the description box. I don't want to say it wrong. I think I know it, but there's a couple shops that are kind of similar in name, so I don't want to get it wrong. I will link that up below. The Paper Journal. I'm absolutely sure that's what it's called, the Paper Journal. But lots of different shops sell these little snippet rolls or little scrap ribbons. And yeah, they're awesome. They're fun, and you can make them yourself too. If you can use a sewing machine, you can make your own ruffles. So I am going to just use double-sided tape here really quickly on the back of this divider. And that is going to be probably all I'm going to show you, except one other thing on the front cover. So let's see. Oh, I don't have my scissors handy. Let me just tear that then. So I'm just using 1/4 inch double-sided tape here. And let's see how I want to do this. I'm going to flip it so I can, I really don't need my glass mat anymore, but that's all right. All right, let's see. I want to be kind of like this. A little below that center stitch line. And I'm going to double check how that is sticking out. When I close it, yeah, that's good. All right. You can use, you know, other kinds of fabric trim. You could use some vintage trim. That would look great. And you can use more. It doesn't matter if, you know, you want to add fabrics or little trims to some of the other dividers. If some of the tabs are covered up, that is really not important. So just going to cut that off there and up here. Sorry about that. So yeah, so the back of that is white there, and I will just incorporate that. Probably I will do something on the back of this page. So the nice thing about having these scrapbook papers, these two-sided papers, is it gives me lots of different places to decorate if I want to add pockets. I might add some more pockets to a couple of these dividers using some different materials. I might use chenille, I might use paper. I am going to add some vintage ephemera like book pages and ledger paper and some other things in here. And I will probably add those pieces in front of the dividers instead of like in between the actual planner pages. I will probably just kind of leave those alone. And I need to go back and stick a couple of these down where the jute strings are. So I am going to share that later, but the last thing I wanted to share with you, so on the front cover you have these rings. I like to add little bits of, you know, fabrics or something like that to the rings just to kind of finish them off. So I just tore some or ripped some vintage fabrics here. This one actually isn't vintage, but this one is. I just cut some pieces. Sorry, I'm getting tired and I'm forgetting what I'm saying. So I just cut a couple pieces of fabric here and tie them onto the rings along with this yarn here. This is yarn. This is not vintage. Sometimes I use vintage yarn, but this is actually new yarn. This is London Kaye brand. I will put that down in the description box below because people always ask me where I get the yarn that I use. So that's what's there. And then I might just leave it like that, but then I got this idea, and this might be like a little bit much, but I'm going to do it anyway because I like the way it looks. So I have this tag flip, and it's kind of a smaller tag flip. I want to say the biggest pieces in here are like 3x4, and you can make one to add, or if you just have one laying around. I think this is kind of cute. Instead of a tassel, I am actually just going to add this to my ring. So it's on a ring already, but I'm adding it to the binder ring of my planner. And what you can do, if you think about this ahead of time, like if you make one specifically for your planner, you can add some things to your tag that you might think you would use in your planner to decorate. So you could just open up the ring and then take off little pieces to use inside of your planner. So it's kind of just another way to keep some of your materials together that you might use in your planner. And that's the other thing that I'll do to make my planning time go, just be more efficient, because I'm going to try to carve out some time in the morning, getting up a little bit earlier so I have some time to do daily planning. And then of course once a month I will also need some time to fill out my monthly calendars. And I just lost my train of thought. So oh gosh. So yes, to be more efficient, I want to keep things together that I'm going to use in this journal or this planner. So like I have these little stamps that I will put in that pocket. And like I said, if you use a little, tag flip, you can have things on here like ephemera or some little journaling cards that you could pop off. Obviously, they will have a little hole punched in the top of them, but you could always add like a little bit of ribbon, tie some string and a bow on it or something like that. So that can be little bits of embellishments that you use inside your planner. And I will take advantage of some of the pockets that I'm going to put inside to keep some stickers and things that I think I would use when working in my planner. So when I go to sit down in the morning, I don't have to go searching for supplies and take up that kind of time. So I will decide in advance what kinds of things go with the color scheme in here and put that in my planner one day, and then I will have all that ready to go. So I may want to cut some of these little strings, but for right now I'm going to leave it as is. And I think that's kind of fun. It's kind of almost like a tassel on there, but just kind of a paper tassel, so a little different. So this is, I think, enough to kind of get you started if you want to make your own planner with a vintage book cover. And I think it's super easy. Just, make your dividers and then fill it with the planner pages that make sense for you. And I hope you give one a try. And if you do, and you're on social media, like if you're on Instagram, I'm on Instagram at Kitty Witty Papercraft. And if you share yours, please be sure to tag me. I would love to see it. Please let me know if you have any questions. I will try to put everything in the description box that I used in this project down below. So thank you so much for sticking with this long video, and I will see you guys real soon. Take care. Bye.